较不会，我担心班上如果有很多个 Rex 或是 Max， 我就惨了。OK， 好。1, 2, 3. It usually takes about 2 to 3 seconds after you turn it on. Here we go.
Hi, we're Group 7. I'm Rex.
I'm Ariel.
I'm Max.
Today we're going to tell you guys what we should do or shouldn't do in a presentation, and hope you guys can learn some useful skills after this class. And let's get started. And Max will have an example for us.
May I ask a question? Who is Rex?
Rex.
Okay, Rex wears something black. Okay. And Max?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Today I want to introduce data privacy. And first of all, I want to apologize to you because I think I'm not very well prepared for today's presentation. And I'm actually not very familiar with the data privacy issue. And according to Wikipedia, data privacy is the relationship between collection and dissemination. I'm not sure, but I think most of people have worried about security of their personal data. In the following 3 minutes, I will introduce data privacy to you.
Well, we can see that this isn't a really good presentation. I won't say it's a bad example, but I won't say it's a good example either, and why it isn't. So first, he's starting the whole presentation. This may make the audience feel like he's not well prepared and didn't practice at all. And second, he had a note. He had a big note. So this is not a presentation. This is just a reading, like a reading contest. And how about third one? His phone just.
His phone didn't ring.
His phone didn't ring, but it should be. Okay. After talking about the external problem, let's get into the content. The announcement is too flat. He's like, oh, today I want to introduce data privacy. This is too flat for an announcement. You have to catch the audience eyes in the beginning of the speech. And second, he was like, first, I want to apologize, blah, blah, blah. And after this, he said, I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. He just feel unconfident in the beginning of the speech. And the audience might feel that either. And once the audience feel you're unconfident, and how do you convince the audience by your speech? And the third one, he just read out the definition of Wikipedia or the dictionary. This may work in a workspace, like school meeting or in an office meeting, but not in a public speech or in a public presentation. So you guys may consider what a good presentation should be. And now Ariel will show it for us.
Welcome, Ariel.
Do you know what the U.S. federal government, 60 million African citizens, and the person sitting on your left-hand side have in common? The answer is that they've all been victims of cyber attacks leading to data privacy threats. Today, I'll be going to talk about data privacy. As more and more people's lives and activities occur online, data protection has become an increasingly important issue. Without putting effort into protecting data, people can be put at risk for fraud and identity theft. Data breaches at the government level may even threaten the security of an entire nation. So for the following speech, I'll be talking about the major issues in data protection and the current laws and regulations governing data privacy. And last but not least, ways to protect against data privacy threats.
Okay, after we listen to Ariel's good example, now look at your page 62 on your textbook. You can see that there are 4 basic building blocks of the introduction. And the first one is greeting, and this is also known as the hook part. You need to get your audience's attention at the beginning. If you don't, instead, if you bore your audience right from the start, there's little chance that your information will get across effectively. And second part, we come into the what part. You need to tell the audience what your topic is clearly and concisely. And then the why part. You need to let your audience know why your presentation is worth listening for and is useful and important to your audience. And last but not least, the overview part. You should tell the audience what are the main points to listen for. For example, as we are all students in the university, I think you have the experience that in the first class of the semester, your professor won't straight go into the courses. Instead, your professor gave us the outline, and it made us clearly know what we are going to do and learn in the several weeks. And this worked as the same as the overview part. But some people often forgot to add it in their introduction. But it's really important, so don't forget to add an overview at the end of your introduction. Okay, after we know the 4 main parts in the introduction, let's now go back and analyze the introduction Ariel just gave us. First, is the greeting part. We can see that Ariel didn't just give us a normal greeting like, "Hello everyone, I'm Ariel, I'm talking about what." She asked us a question. And we know that if someone is posed with a question, whether the answer is called for or not, the people intuitively think of that question and answer it in their own mind. And by doing so, we successfully make a connection between our topic and our audience. And also, instead of just saying that data privacy is now a big problem, Ariel said that 60 million African citizens are all victims to the data privacy issues. And that brings out that we show even some point charts, even some charts or a line graph, instead of just saying a normal sentences. The tip is we show and we don't tell. And after the greeting part, Ariel stated that her topic for today is data privacy, which can make her think clear and concise. And then she talked about the consequence of data breaches, which informed her audience that why we need to listen to her following speech carefully, because we don't want to fall victim to the identity theft. And last but not least, she gave us an overview by listing out 3 main points in her following speech. By doing so, her audience can catch her following speech more easily. Next, let's have 2 more TED Talk, for example.
So, next just tell us about 4 elements of introduction. And now we have some example from TikTok video. And please watch it as carefully as you can, because it's really important in the following.
I have a confession to make. But first, I want you to make a little confession to me. In the past year, would you just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress? Anyone? How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this: I'm a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from the common cold to cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let,
So, after we watched this short fragment of the speech, we've got to know that she asked some questions for the audience for the greeting part. And it's a good way for having a greeting. Because you can catch the audience eyes and attention in the beginning of your speech. So you may try this later in your greeting part. Okay. And about the what part. What part is about to tell the audience what the topic is, what you're going to say today. So she said, harmful or not is not depending on the stress itself. It depends on how you consider stress. So this tell the audience and make the audience more clear about what you're going to say later. And let's move on to the white part. White part is about to tell the audience why they have to listen to your speech and not ours. So she told us that it has something to do with our health. So if it influences our health, and of course we have to listen to her. And the last one, overview. She just give the overview and jump into the body part. It's better to have an overview because the audience may be more clear about what you're going to say. And we have another example.
Next, we will be watching another video, and this one is about risk intelligence. So try to keep in mind the structure of introduction while listening to his speech.
I've spent the last few years interviewing some of the most successful gamblers in the world. And it's not just because I like spending my time in casinos. I've got a hunch that there's a special kind of intelligence for thinking about risk and uncertainty, something I call risk intelligence. So, if psychologists study gamblers at all, they tend to focus exclusively on problem gamblers. But that's like studying obesity and neglecting haute cuisine, or studying alcoholism and neglecting fine wines. Not all gamblers are fools. Some of them are experts, and I think we can all learn a lot about how to make better decisions by studying the way these expert gamblers think. The very idea of an expert gambler seems odd to some people.
Okay, we can start here. So, recalling the beginning of his speech, the speaker started by saying that he has spent a lot of time interviewing successful gamblers, and this makes him sound professional, and therefore it establishes credibility and trust with the audience. To make his intro even better, he added some jokes, some humor into his hook to attract your attention. Next, he stated the topic of his speech by introducing the phrase risk intelligence, and this is considered as the what part of the introduction. After that, he mentioned that people can actually make better decisions if they study the way expert gamblers think. And this stands as the why part of the introduction. And it gives the audience the reason why paying attention to the speaker is important. And lastly, overview. The last part of the introduction is supposed to be an overview. However, this speaker did not do that. Instead, he jumped right into the body of his speech. In my opinion, the reason he did that was probably because that he has so many different subtopics to say that concluding them into bullet points will not be effective for the audience to understand. However, it is still recommended to put an overview before going to the body because it's simply way easier for the audience to understand the remaining part of your speech. Okay, so that's it for the TED Talk videos, and it's now time for you to do an introduction yourself. So Max will be explaining the activity to you.
Okay, after those examples, now I'm going to tell you the commonly used phrases in introduction. So please look at page 63 on your textbook. And you can see that there are 4 examples. And before each part of the introduction, in the red boxes, there are some sentences we can use as transitions if we want to move to another part in the introduction. And first, you can see before the what part, you can say that I'm going to talk about cars. I'd like to tell you about dogs. I want to describe my hometown. I'll explain to you how to make fried chicken as transitions to move into the what part. And next, before why part, the transition sentences could be the information will help you. After this speech, you will be able to. This topic will be important to you because you will need to know this because. And last, the overview. Before you start your overview part, you can say sentences like, I'm going to talk about 3 points, and first, second, and third. And I'll cover 3 things to begin with. Next, finally, I'll tell you about 3 main areas. First of all, then lastly. After I have 3 points that I will describe to start with, after that, at the end. These sentences are essential in your introduction as you can use them as transitions. And now look at this page. Does anyone see any problem in this picture? Anyone?
Can you give us some hints? Like something missing or something
Yes.
needs to be changed or?
The word is too small. Does anyone know something is missing in this picture? The word is too small.
It's about the structure of the introduction, so like it's missing a part.
Yes. Okay. The problem here is that you can notice that in these 4 examples, there are no greeting parts in here. So it may be okay, but if you don't have the greeting part, also known as the hook sentences, if you have them, you can catch your audience's eyes more easily. Like take the number 2 for example. Before you are trying to tell your audience how to take care for their dogs, you can say a sentence before like, do you guys know dogs can also suffer from depression? And this interesting question might make your audience curious and thus pay more attention in your following speech. Okay, now it's time for activity. Based on page 63 I just mentioned about, it's time for you guys to do your own introductions. And your introductions, notice that your introduction should include the 4 parts, which are greeting, what, why, and overview. And you have 10 minutes to discuss with your group members. And after 10 minutes, every group, every person in the group should come to the front of the classroom. And each student can take part of 1 part or 2 parts. For example, student A gave us the greeting. Student B gave us the what and why part. And student C the overview part. So now, please send 1 person. Every group, please send 1 person here to draw your dog skills. And the topic is on the paper.
How many students in the group, or they just follow their unit presentation group?
Yeah,
Yes.
your unit presentation.
Okay, so find your unit presentation group mates and send 1 representative to get the draw.